Do you ever feel that your problems are just too huge to be solved? That they're like this huge mountain that's above you and you're sitting below and it just feels just too much and it's kind of insurmountable and you go into this place of despair that says, why bother? And that kind of bolts you to the floor so you don't move, you don't do anything. Uh, have you ever had problems like that? I've certainly felt times when I'm like, oh no, it's just too much. And even Jesus said, he said, in this world you will have troubles. And you know it. You see, I think it's all about giants. And when I was a kid, I used to listen to lots of different stories, and one of my favorites was a, s- a very comical, funny story called Bad Jelly the Witch by Smike Milligan. And some of you might be having a chuckle as you think about this. And I'd encourage you to look it up. I think there's probably versions on YouTube. And in the story, there is this giant called Dullboot. And Spike Milligan, the writer, he describes Dullboot was as big as a house. He had purple hair and 10 eyes all around his head so he could see if he had pimples on his back. And so you imagine it, it's really a comical, cartoonish version of a giant. But the downfall of Dullboot was a little mouse called Dingle. And this is what it says in the book. Dingle Mouse jumped on the giant, nibbled his belt, and down came the giant's trousers. And if you listen to the story, it goes, "Ah, oh no, help," said the giant. "I'm showing my bare bottom." And he ran away to bare bottomed land. It's a real funny children's story that adults love too. And even now, as an adult, I still love that line about running away to bare bottom land. Even giants get embarrassed. I love the idea that it's a little mouse and little mice taking down big giants. Spike Milligan had Dingle Mouse. C.S. Lewis, another very famous writer in the stories of Narnia, he had a little mouse called Reepicheep. And what I've found is that it's the little mice, the little actions, those are the things that take down the biggest giants in our lives. And when we take action, when we focus on what's within our control, if you remember last week's post, and have a plan, that is when the giant of fear loses its strength and runs away to bare bottom land. Yeah, it's the small that overcomes the large. And it's the repeated habit of doing small things and doing them well that actually takes down the biggest of problems. And in the Bible, there is a story of when God was bringing the people of Israel, back to their homeland. And this was going to be a huge challenge for them to settle back in the land. There was lots of struggles and problems, mountains of problems to overcome. It was not going to be a walk in the park, and they faced incredible obstacles. And the answer was to do it little by little, establish themselves in the new place, and then tackle the next problem little by little. It says this in Exodus 23: I will not drive out from before you in 1 year. All the land would become desolate, and wild animals would multiply against you. Little by little, I will drive them out before you until you have increased and possessed the land. Look, whether it's an addiction, a financial problem, or an illness, we take the little steps. We quietly celebrate the change. We establish ourselves in that new habit. And then we take the next little step by little step by little step. God wasn't going to wave some sort of magic wand. No, he wanted the people to learn to trust little by little. Um, and I call this kind of thing Millimetre Ministry. The trick is to tackle the smallest giant first. And to discover what that smallest giant is, it's often a case of sifting through all the mess and finding something that is highly achievable, to send off to Bear Bottom Land. Okay. And for this process, I use what's called a Achieving Goals and Solving Problems sheet. I've got one of them here, right here. And when I was working full-time as a mental health support worker, I would use one of these sheets. Like I've even got it in my brain. I could just spout it off straight. But someone would present me a problem such as, I need to get to a job appointment tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. And it's like, oh no. Now the easiest thing would be saying, okay, I'll shift all my appointments and I'll take you. All right, that would be the easiest thing. But this kind of creates a dependency between me and the person, and I'm just gonna solve your problem, rather than for them to learn how to solve their problems and learn how to take those next steps and create belief in themselves that they can do this. I wanted to empower them to take responsibility for themselves and to solve these things themselves. I wanted to foster a kind of interdependency. I will do what I can do, you will do what you do, and maybe others can help as well, rather than dependency upon me or dependency upon someone else. So I would pull out this problem-solving sheet, and hopefully, I'd be able to do this with maybe 2 or 3 others that's supporting the person, because everybody has fresh ideas. And I'd use the sheet. So the first step in the sheet is to identify the problem. And that's probably one of the hardest parts of it. And one of the trickiest parts of the process, because we often have so many problems that it's hard to choose which one to tackle first. And you start off by saying, this is the problem. And then you might find, actually, no, this is the problem down here. And then this is the problem. So it's a process of elimination until you get right down, you dig down to the real core problem. And that may take time, and that's okay. But it might be helpful to list out all the problems and scale them on 1 to 5 with 5 being the problem causing the most stress. And you can always come back to the other problems later. And as you go through this process, you'll be able to redefine the problem, as more information comes to light. So this is the real problem. But anyway, for this example, it's getting her to the Jennifer, I think we called her, to the appointment tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. The next step is to generate possible solutions. Okay, sort of a brainstorm. And we write down all the possible solutions. You don't worry about the quality of the solutions at the stage. You don't discount anything. You just throw them down. Try to list at least 10 solutions so that people are forced to be creative. And I encourage creativity and fun because it seems to just unlock the brain for really possible good solutions. And you see, the brain needs permission to explore, and so you include all the ideas, even bad or silly suggestions. You get everybody to suggest something. We don't talk about whether the ideas are good or bad because we don't want to shut down people's creativity. So I've listed down 7 things. Number 1, call a taxi. Ask a neighbour. Number 2, ask a neighbour who goes to work nearby. Walk. Ride your bike. Book an Uber. Take the bus. Here's another one. Ask the local helicopter company to drop by and pick you up. And just as I do this, I remember doing this exact same scenario with a family who wanted to get their child to a camp. And I said, and it was on the other side of New Zealand, on the other side. I said, well, hold on. How about we get a hot air balloon to take them over there? They thought that was funny. And then they live near a beach. So I said, hey, what about we organise a jet boat to come and pick them up and to zoom around the other side of New Zealand? Would have taken days. But anyway, but it's just creativity. It's just throwing out anything, just have a bit of fun to lighten it up. Next one is to evaluate the alternatives. And so you get the group to say what they think the main advantages and disadvantages of each suggestion. So you might be able to say, all right, what is the advantage of asking the local helicopter company to drop by and pick you up? Well, it would be quick, wouldn't it? That would be an advantage. Disadvantage? It would cost a lot of money, and it would really disturb the neighbours. Yeah. Okay. What about calling a taxi? Yeah, and advantages would be it wouldn't be bother anybody else. It'd be quick, it'd be reliable. Disadvantage, taxis actually kind of cost a bit of money, and I don't have a lot of money. Okay, and then so you just work your way through, listening out the disadvantages and the advantages, and you don't write any of this down. It's just purely working through them, having a discussion about the alternatives, just a general discussion. The next thing, number 4, is to decide on a solution. And you choose a solution that can be carried out most easily with the resources, so things like time, skills, material, money, that you have at the moment. At the moment. And this could be a solution that is developed from all the other solutions that have been presented in the previously. So the solution that we settled on was to ask my neighbour for a ride. All right, so that's the solution. And number 5 is to create a plan exactly how to carry out the solution. So this is you write this down, and it's really good to write down in pen and paper because then you can use it later to say, oh, those things, that's where it really succeeded. This is where it didn't work so well. So you list out what needs to be done and by when. You organize how to get anything that is needed to solve the problem. And you think about what might cause it to not work, right? Any likely hitches. And you practice any difficult steps. And the final thing is really important is to set a date and a time to review how progress is going with the plan. Not when it's achieved, okay? It's a review. So how did it go, this plan? How did it all work out? Was there problems? What went well? So this is the plan that I've written down here. Number 1 is practice what you're going to say. So Jasmine, okay, this is the person who's got the problem. Jasmine is going to say, Jasmine practices this. Hi, Jenny, that's the neighbour. I need to get to a job interview tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. It's located very close to where you work. Would you be able to take me? I can give you $5 to help with petrol. Okay, now possibly Jasmine has got a little bit of anxiety about worrying, so we practice this. We practice this. We practice it. We practice it. So she is very confident. I mean, that she may even want to write this down. Okay, and so the next step in the plan would be for her to go next door and ask. All right, and considering a likely hitch that she may not be able to take her, if they say no, then option B will be to take the bus, and we might create a plan around taking the bus. And then the final part is to arrange a time to review the plan to see how it got on. So I would ring Jasmine to see how it all went. Okay. The final part is review progress in carrying out the plan. So that's the part that we just talked about. So we praise all efforts made in carrying out the plan. All the efforts. Oh wow, you actually went next door. Yeah, you did. Well, and you did your little speech. Fantastic. Well done. That's so good. Well done for doing that. And you do like a quick review, and you make sure you praise any effort made in trying to solve the problem. You know, you got to accentuate the positive, okay? And this is not a time to play the blame and shame game. Oh, you do. Don't, no, this is not the time for that. We want to really encourage any step forward. And it could be a time to possibly solve any issues that might have arisen, okay? Like, so this came up. So could we problem solve that particular issue? Yeah, okay. And so we revise the plan and we may need to make a new plan. And look, using this sheet, it's probably one of the most powerful tools I have in my toolbox for helping people because it takes it out of me having to solve the problem to we solving the problem. It empowers the person to taking action themselves. It empowers them to actually try and solve other problems and to work on things themselves. And it is just probably the most powerful thing that I've ever come across in helping people. You see, we scale down the giant, we scale it down to something very achievable. We break it down to small steps, steps that are highly achievable. And anxiety is reduced because we ground ourselves in the present and what can be achieved. Hey, thanks for watching. If you'd like to get a copy of this, there's going to be a link in the email, in the blog, in the YouTube post, and you can get a copy through there. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Come over to the website and sign up to the email list, because I just keep on sending out information like this all the time, and I'd love for you to be on the email list, and you'll get aware of any courses or things that I might put out. Hey, thanks for watching. We'll catch up with you next time. Bye.